My name's Shaquan, but a lot of people know me by my other name, Mad Skillz. I'm an MC.
My name is Mad Skillz. Paris, make some noise!
I'm a DJ.
Oh, yeah!
I'm a ghostwriter for some of your favorite rappers. I'm not about to tell you who, though. But most importantly, I'm a hip-hop enthusiast. HipHopConfessions is raw, unfiltered conversations with my friends revealing things that they didn't like, never knew about,
I don't know.
or never got into about hip-hop culture. So sit back.
Oh, come on, y'all.
Turn up the volume.
Hip-hop.
And listen to HipHopConfessions. Because everybody's got one.
Here's a little story that must be told.
And it goes a little something like this.
What's up, y'all? This is your boy Mad Skillz. We are back. This is my podcast, HipHopConfessions, where I bring in my friends and industry veterans alike, and I have them reveal something music-related or hip-hop-related that they've never told anybody ever in life. This is called HipHopConfessions. And today I am excited. I have a good friend of mine. I haven't seen her in a while, so it's so good to just chop it up with her. She's a writer, a journalist, a TV producer, personality. She's done it all. She has a book out, put a book out, and she was the editor for a time over at what most people will consider the Hip Hop Bible magazine publication, The Source magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, Kim Osorio in the building on HipHopConfessions. What's up, love?
That's an applause for myself.
No, the applause is in there. You just didn't hear it today, but it's in there.
I just finished giving you like an hour pre-lecture on production, and I didn't know the sound effects are actually already.
Yeah. We're gonna add in the laugh tracks later. All of it.
We start over. Hi, Skillz.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you in some years.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. You still look good.
Thank you.
I see your name.
That's all that matters for women. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing for women in hip hop, right? Like, because it's like if we could do this whole thing. That's why I don't want to change my angle. Because we could do this whole thing, and if I have a bad angle, they catch the bad angle. That goes viral. Forget about everything that I said.
Listen, I'm gonna make sure all your angles are good.
Mm-hmm.
If all your angles ain't good, then this just gonna be audio only. That's how much respect I got for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But you look amazing, and how have you been?
I've been good. I've been through some shit, but I've been good.
Yeah.
Haven't we all?
I mean, every now and then I'll be watching a show here, there, could be, reality TV or just regular TV. And I just see your name pop up in the credits. And I'm like, Kim's still out here working, man. She doing what she do.
Still here. Survival.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do here. You just got to keep going. You can't stay somewhere too long in this industry. You got to keep it moving. True. You got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
yes,
I've been doing reality.
Yeah, it's
I have. I haven't been, a lot of people know I do a lot of show running for in the reality genre. I haven't done a lot of it lately. I've been home working and consulting on different things, and it's been amazing. Because, those shows can be really toxic.
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. You get on set, you forget that you're in charge. The people start testing you.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
like, hold on. I'm in charge. Like, stop shooting. Everyone stopped. I actually had a scene where a cast member told me, no, come here right now. Tell me what you told me and what you said before. And then she said, point the camera at her. And the cameraman forgot. They forgot who they work for. They point the camera at me. I said, hold on a second. Wow. Shut the camera off. Let's start. I'm going to walk out and I'm going to remind you who's on the show. And I had to walk out of the scene. Like they'll test you.
That's crazy.
Oh, it's a lot of crazy stories. I know this is HipHopConfessions. Let me know when we get to reality show confessions.
That's a whole nother show.
Whole other show.
Well, listen, you were, you started as a writer. You know what I mean? Where did your love of writing come from? When did you realize that, like, hey, I can do this writing thing? Because I write raps, but if I actually had to write something and make it grammatically correct and make people be able to understand it, that's a totally separate skill set. So when did you realize that you had a love for writing?
Probably in the mid-90s. I always had a love for hip-hop. I grew up on hip-hop. Everyone knows, like, I grew up in the Bronx. People that know me know I grew up in the Bronx. at a time.
DX. Yeah.
Castle
The
Hill.
birthplace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. The birthplace.
Yeah. Do you really know about Castle Hill?
I don't know much, but I know the BX is the birthplace.
It is. Castle Hills is, people who know a little bit about my neighborhood understand what type of neighborhood that is. So it was not easy, I thought I was in the middle class neighborhood because I wasn't in the South Bronx, but I have since abandoned that thought as I have gotten out into the world and gone back to Castle Hill like, oh, okay, they still shooting people up here.
Right.
So, I came up at a time where hip hop was just coming of age. And it was just something I always, loved, and it was a part of me. And I knew when I went to college that I wanted to work in music. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Oh, you did your homework.
I always do my homework.
Here you go.
I always do my homework.
Don't let me start talking about the Gemini energy. I get it. I get it.
It's heavy in the room. It's heavy
I get
in the
it.
room. It's always with me.
I went to Fordham.
mid 90s, you started to realize that you had an affinity for writing, and you ended up writing about hip hop.
Well, yes. Well, it was hip hop. I wanted to work in the music industry. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was always a writer. After Fordham, I went to law school, and in law school, you learn how to write a specific way, right? So, like, for me, I didn't know my success was going to be a lawyer or a doctor, right? I came up in a household that my parents didn't even my father never graduated the 8th grade. My mom didn't go to college. So it was like, oh, she's going to college. The next step is like law school. You're going to either be a lawyer or a doctor, because we don't really know what other careers are out there. They didn't know how to nurture a writer, right? But I always loved stories. I love telling stories. I love storytelling rap. Like one of my favorite MCs coming up was Slick Rick. And now I understand why, right? Because I used to love to hear stories. Hang on to every word, records. Yeah. Right. And so as I was trying to figure out where I would fit in the industry, I eventually fell upon my writing craft, because people are like, you have something to say.
Right.
And so, I started freelancing and took it from there. I got it cracked. Started meeting people. I was in New York. I was in the clubs, I was hanging out. I was going, in New York at that time, every night except the weekend. The weekend was for your family.
Right.
Every night there was an event.
Popping.
Right? To go to Club New York on Sundays, to go, to Club Envy, to go to the Tunnel. Yeah. Right. So you know where to be if you want to be in the mix. Exactly. Yeah. Mad Wednesdays, yep.
Yeah, definitely. I've been through
that. Might have been before my time.
Mad Wednesdays?
That might have been before I could get in the clubs, yeah. yeah, but for sure.
So, for you ended up, I want to start at the beginning, but I'm definitely going to, talk about the ending. Like, you ended up being the editor for what many consider the hip hop Bible, like the Source magazine. We didn't have anything like that. It was basically the Rolling Stone of hip hop, and it meant everything to the hip hop culture. I ended up in it a couple times, but the first...
Hold on, Skillz. I got to interrupt you before we get to the Source. I saw you freestyling on the block once in front of one of those clubs.
Really?
Yes.
In New York?
In New York. About 93, 94.
Yeah, that sounds like...
With dreads?
Yeah.
With dreads, right? Yeah, that was you? That was you, because I remember... Who was I with? Oh, man. I just remember that's the first time I heard about you.
Really?
Because you was... Yes, this was early. And you was with dreads.
It was down to here. It was like down to here. They was long. My hair
and
was
they
long.
were like, who's that? It was outside of a club. It was a party. My memory is like as I get older. But they were like, mad Skillz. Oh, he's nice. You going in.
Wow.
Wait, can we put the applause track there?
Yes. The applause is there. I do, I do remember I had a manager that was from Long Island. So he had, his mom and everybody still lived in Brentwood. So we would go up during the summers, crash out at his mom's crib during the days and, go into the city at night. And, if we couldn't get in, we was outside handing out flyers.
You were in front of the door.
Yeah, that sounds like it was about right.
Yeah, a crowd around you.
So you heard about me before the Source.
Absolutely.
Damn,
oh, you ain't think I knew.
I felt like, what I mean? Like, I felt like that's a big deal. And to be from Virginia and somebody know
why
your
is
name
that a
in
big
New
deal?
York. Because
but everyone had known your name that knew what they was talking about in hip hop at that time. Right?
I mean,
so you were pointed out to me as that's Mad
dope.
Skillz. You never heard of him?
That's dope.
Yeah, early.
Man, that's super dope. Early 90s, man. I was running around with Q-Tip at that time, and that was Tribe's, heyday.
I remember.
You know what I mean? So, and it's funny. It's funny because speaking of the Source, I have a funny memory about Tribe and the Source. I remember hanging out with Q-Tip. Me and Q-Tip had became friends. He took me up to Stretch and Bobito. And I was in New York, living in New York, and he would come scoop me up. And, I'm around Large Professor and, a lot of these other people. And I remember right before Midnight Marauders came out when they had the Tribe cover with Fife, Ali, and Tip, and it was the green background, right? And Tribe Called Quest was on the cover. Midnight Marauders was about to drop. I think a War Tour was out, and it was a story, and they were talking, and it was so descriptive. I remember it. I remember saying the story read like, Q-Tip lives on a suburban lined street, in Queens Boulevard. He used to share a room with his sister, and when you go up the right steps into his room, there's a couple records and there's some posters on the wall of like Miles Davis. And I'm sitting there going, I've been there. Like I've been in this house. I've been in Q-Tip's house. I know exactly what this means. So to read those words but know what I knew, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm a person who's been to Q-Tip's house. There's not a lot of outside of Fife, Consequence, you know what I mean, fam. You know what I mean? I'm a cat from Virginia and I'm reading the Source magazine and they're talking about what Q-Tip house looks like. Right. And I know it. You know what I'm saying? I can see it. So visually being able to read, like you said, storytelling, being able to read words and automatically take yourself back to that moment. You know what I'm saying? So I think I still got that saved, like that PDF saved on a hard drive, just because I just like looking at it. You know what I mean? Like when I think about those early days.
And that was around the same time that I got in. Like the Midnight Marauders album release party was the first official album release party that I went to. You were there?
I was there. Yeah,
So
I was there. Litro, I remember Litro. Litro was like, yeah, come up. I remember Souls of Mischief was there, and it was a big deal about everybody that was on the album cover with the headphones.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was your first party as an employee of the Source.
No. This is years before I got to the Source. It took me a decade to get there.
Wow.
You understand? Because I was writing, I was working at companies, I was doing different things, and the reason why I had gotten into that album release party was because I had become I was still in college. I become an intern at BMG Distribution in the national distribution department.
Jive, right, and all those other companies. Yeah.
And on that floor where I was interning, there wasn't any hip hop executives. It was very, the color was,
right.
It was very white.
Right.
So, there was, when the hip hop albums would come in, they'd be like, hey, you want this? Here's a new Jive release by Tribe Called Quest. You like Tribe? You want this? And they would give it to me. And so the album release party came around and none of the execs were going to go. And they were like, hey, you want to go to the album release party? I'm like, absolutely, of course. It's Tribe Called Quest. So Tribe Called Quest is one of my favorite groups of all time, if not my favorite hip hop group of all time.
Got you.
And I've said that to Q-Tip, so I don't think he believes me when I say it. I'd be like, "You my favorite group of all time." Yeah, whatever. Yeah. But Tribe for sure. Tribe, Wu-Tang, and now the Locks.
Got you. I mean, 3 groundbreaking New York artists. You know
I
what
had to
mean?
put the locks in there after verses.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, I gotta start saying locks. I gotta start
we
saying
gotta
the
say
locks
it
after
more.
that.
Yeah.
I gotta."
So you were interning at BMG. How long were you there?
About 2 years.
Okay. But you knew you
Because
were
they
going to
gave
do...
me a job. They gave me a job, like a temp job, like in different departments. So I was there for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. So...
And Profile. I went to Profile.
Oh,
I
wow.
interned at Profile. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you...
See, this
you-
is
you
stuff
was
I
cutting
really
your
don't talk
teeth.
about. Oh, I was
Yeah.
trying to figure it out.
Right.
I was like, where I want to be. Because after BMG, I was like, this ain't hot enough for me. Like, ain't no rap in here. What's going on? Right?
I need to be at the core. I need to be where it's popping at.
Right. And that BMG was very corporate for me because I wasn't on the Bad Boy floor when they were. This is when Bad Boy was just, getting its deal with Arista.
Right.
And I wasn't on the Loud floor when they were one office in that 1540 building. I basically
Right.
worked at that building when it went up. Like I started working at BMG Distribution when it was 1133 Avenue of the Americas. And then
I remember
eventually
that building. Yes.
they put 1540 up and I started working there. But after that, I had gotten an internship at Profile because I was like, I'm not learning what I need to learn. And I went to work in the publicity department at Profile. And nobody ever came to work. I never saw an employee at
Say
Profile
word.
for my 3 months.
Are you serious?
The person I was interning for, she was pregnant. So she was on maternity leave, right?
Gotcha. Right.
And all she had me doing, it was hard to learn because she wasn't there and no one else was there. So all she really had me doing was, cutting out the clips from the magazines. And that kind of taught me a lot about publicity just because I was like, oh, I had never heard of half of those publications before. Right. So
Right.
I was putting I put the press release or the press packet together for I think it was Run DMC when they had Down with the King. What year was that?
93.
Yeah, 93. That's when I worked at Profile. So I was reading all of the press around that release.
Wow.
And so, yeah, like Onyx, I think Onyx was on the label
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Right under the jam message. Yeah.
and they had
God
dreads
bless
too.
you.
Everybody had dreads.
Onyx had dreads.
I think so.
Damn, it didn't. Damn. I could never picture that. I want to see one of those pictures.
Somebody needs to Google that. Make sure I know what I'm talking about. Because I'm like,
That's-
wait, I think, I feel like, was it Onyx? Yeah, it was Onyx. Onyx was on
Okay.
Profile.
I remember
Maybe under
Run
a different
DMC,
name.
Special Ed.
Well, Special Ed wasn't out at that time. So
yeah, they
I just
probably might have got rid
remember
of him by then.
I just remember there was a focus was putting together press packets for like Run DMC and who else? Who else was on it? You know who had an office? Flex had an office at Profile, but I didn't know him at the
Really?
time. Flex.
Wow.
I never
Yeah.
saw anybody come into the office.
Right. So it was that type of business. No wonder Profile went under.
No, but you know what it is? They probably came in late. I used to hear that Flex used to come in like at 7 p.m. or something.
Yeah,
And
you'd be
I
home
was
by
a
then.
student. So I
Yeah.
would come in, 3 days a week and work from 10 to 2 and then go to class. So, I don't know. I mean, there was definitely I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating, right? I'm a storyteller. I got to tell stories. Yeah.
I get it.
It might have been one person in there or not, but
Right.
the feeling that you expect at a label, I didn't feel that at Profile.
Right.
So eventually I was like, I gotta figure something else out.
So what was after that?
I went to Muse.
You was all over the place.
Do you know what Muse is?
No.
Okay. Muse was a company. Now this company was extremely important in my career, but at the time it had no clout. So I hated it.
Right.
I worked there from 1994 to 1999. And in that time, all I wanted to do was get to the Source or Vibe or XXL, right?
Right.
But I was at a music software company. They provided the data that went into the record stores when you could sell records. And I was really the only hip hop person there.
Gotcha.
So what I did in those years, right? When the CDs came in, I took everything that was on the liner notes and I entered it into their database, which was later sold to Amazon. So
Wow.
occasionally, right, because
You
they
see
were
your
up
shit
on.
on Amazon.
Right. Occasionally read a Mob Deep review, and I'm like, that sounds
That's
like
me.
me. Right. But I wasn't getting bylines at the time. But
Right.
I was entering I have all this random information on albums from 94 to 99. Because there wasn't people that were into hip hop like I am
Right.
there. So when the
Right.
hip hop came through, they would just give me all those records and say, okay, this is your batch to enter into the system.
Hmm.
And because you remember you go in Tower Records and you go
Yeah.
and you be like, what's the name of that song? And you type it in, and then
Yeah. And it come
the
up.
liner notes came up, and
Yeah.
I was entering all the liner
Wow.
notes.
I remember
So
those days. Yeah. Sam
that's
Goody,
why,
all of that. Yeah.
let me tell you, this is how I got into understanding samples, right? Because I would enter, this song, Drink Away the Pain contains a sample of the Headhunters, right?
Right.
So for me, I would type in the name because the database had all the music that was out.
Hmm.
I would type in the original artist and I would do my research because I had all day. I was working there from 9 to 5,
Right.
just entering information. So I had a
Right.
database of music information. So I would, and then certain, songs had live instrumentation. So then I would go
Hmm.
back and do research on that. So
Hmm.
it was musically very technical for me to be in that position and learn the things that I was learning about music.
That's crazy,
It's kind
man.
of boring though, right?
Yeah, it sounds
It's
like.
a little boring.
But if you're a music nerd, then you could get, during the day
I
you
got
might
a
get a couple little instances of something dope.
I
You know what I'm
got a little
saying?
bit of music nerd in me, but
Hmm.
only a few people know that. Cuz I usually have these type of conversations with super music nerds,
Right.
right? So they always teach me and they know more. But for me, with the average person, you'll be surprised like if I'm, talking to you about music like that. Because
Right.
I majored in fine arts in college.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I'm a fine arts major. So like I did like art history, music, but people don't know that.
Right.
You have to sit there and be like, this piece of art at the Metropolitan is no, I'm
Right.
not doing all that.
I
It's not as
like the
fun.
little quick. I like the little quick English accent that you went into. Real
I'm
quick,
horrible
man,
at it.
so,
I'm horrible at it.
So, okay, so because I always ask, you know what I mean, because I'll never know what this feels like. So
Mm-hmm.
I only ask the people that I know can directly give me an answer because they've lived this experience firsthand. You are a woman in
Mm-hmm.
hip hop,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very, male dominated field, you know what I'm saying? And y'all have been through y'all ups and downs of not pay just in the world in general, but even hip hop is just harder because it's so many dudes. You know what I mean? And it's like you were at a position of power at a publication that people really cared about. You know what I mean? And this was prior before, because I think a little bit before you came in, when people started to realize how important the source was
Mm-hmm.
to their audience and to their credibility, it's like if y'all ain't taking care of me, then who the fuck wrote this shit? Who the fuck is Maddie C? Who the fuck is Riggs? You know what I mean? I'm about to see this motherfucker John Sheck, the Daddy Reef, whoever these motherfuckers are. You know what I'm saying?
That's
And
how
this was
important the
before-
source was. Yeah.
That's how important it was, and I of course, I remember the story about Wu running up on a writer or whatever because whatever they didn't get the right review. But for me, when the first time that I appeared in the Source magazine was the one with Flavor Flav on the cover. Right,
Oh, that's old,
with
right?
Flavor Flav with the clock, and the headline was "Is he a joker or a genius?" You know what I'm saying? And that's when I was in Unsigned Hype, and
Before my
Unsigned Hype,
time.
right?
Mhm.
Unsigned Hype was the column where they told you what was coming next and who you should look out
Mhm.
for. And I'm in the company of people like Biggie, Common, Mobb Deep. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in a good class of people. But I remember my mom. It's so funny, man, because that Biggie line that he said, mom smiles every time my face up in the soil. Say it rang so true to me because I was very instrumental in, that was a big deal. You couldn't go viral. There was no going viral back then.
Right.
But if cats went to the Sam Goody or the Tower Records or the Willie's Records or the mall, wherever, and they picked up that magazine and saw me in it in my hood, that meant something. That meant my name was bigger than just in this area. I was doing something right. So what was it like when you first started there? Because when you first started there, of course, I think it was Benzino and Dave Mays. Was in control of the magazine.
Well, for me, it was always Benzino and Dave Mays in control.
Right. Yeah, because everybody else had rolled out. Had gone. Then.
Yep.
So when you got there, Kim Osorio from Castle Hill BX is now at the most important publication in hip hop. What was that like for you when you was like, okay, I'm here and I'm going to be able to do some things that's going to affect the culture in the way that I want to?
I was so happy. First of all, I have to say that I came from XXL.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that because I was only there a month. Right. I got that job as a lifestyle editor. Elliot gave me that job. And he had just left The Source. And I used to write under Elliot.
I never knew Elliot was even at The Source. I never knew that.
When is Elliot coming on here? There's stories from his time at The Source.
I never knew he was at The Source.
I mean, a lot of prominent editors who were at The Source have very public situations about, that weren't, like, they didn't leave under great circumstances.
Right.
Right. So
a lot of people didn't leave under great circumstances.
Right. So like everybody was like, I'm leaving. It's like, you don't want to go. Right. It's like, I'm not without a fight. It's the only job that we had really where it was like, there was never no graceful bow out of The Source. I mean, maybe Carlito kind of did it in a good way. Right. It was a lot of people left with,
Bones,
a bang, a walkout, a staff walkout.
Right.
We was
because we get the magazine every month and we enjoy it. I used to buy 2 copies of The Source. I still have them in storage, like pristine condition. So we got the magazine every month and we had no clue what it went to make that episode happen.
Right.
Y'all were in there tooth and nail. Yo, you only gave them what? Like arguing.
Tears.
So every week, every day, y'all were in there tooth and nail fighting against each other for to have an amazing issue every month. I couldn't wait on the subscription. I had to go get that shit. Like I didn't want to get it 2 weeks after it was on newsstands. I needed to have it as soon as it dropped.
Came out, yep.
So what was it like during those days when y'all were in there going ham?
It was great. I mean, look, in retrospect, it was the best job I ever had.
Right.
It was the most memorable job. It was, the one where I think the one attached to my name more than any job. Like, it doesn't matter how many shows I do these days. I'm like, damn, I ain't doing enough because I'm still Kim from The Source. I leave it like, here's Kim, the former editor-in-chief of The Source. I left The Source in 2005. And then I went back, and I went under Londell in 2012-13, but still, it wasn't like that, those glory
that first
days.
Run, right.
That first
run.
Like
Jordan coming back, but it wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same, especially because The Source was at its height during my first tenure. Like, we were the number one
untouchable
magazine on newsstands. Period. I think above like all the other music magazines, not just hip hop. So, it was a very special time in hip hop in my life, and so I look back at that and I have really good memories, although a lot of that stuff has been obviously talked about with the case,
Right.
I'm so far beyond that these days, right? I've been through so many other things that now I'm like, lawsuit.
Yeah, that was it was tough. That's a blip.
It wasn't nothing. Yeah. Right. So, that's a big part of who I am and a big part of my history. And I'm grateful that I had that experience. When I got there, I mean, we were popping. Source was spending money. People were like, we had jewelry. We had the Source. I got the bracelet. I should have brought it downstairs. The Source bracelet that you get when you're like officially a part of the family. You know,
like
dudes had
Rockefeller chains.
Yeah, they had the Source chain. I had the bracelet because the girls got the bracelet, the guys got the chain.
Wow.
You know, so it was, you know, like being a part of a family. And obviously with that came and in the time in hip hop, right? Like people there's stories about people, as you already referenced, rolling up to the Source.
Yeah.
Like that's how much those reviews meant. Right? So if you got a bad review in the magazine, it's like you knew you might have to answer to someone, right?
Because you might not sell no records. You might get dropped. Like the company might be like, yo, the Source said this shit ain't it. You told us it was it. We thought it was it. We paid for your video. We paid for your budget. This shit just came out. The sales is not looking. And the rating ain't bad.
Point.
It ain't it.
It was on point because you trusted the Source. The Source was a trusted opinion, right? You didn't trust other publications the way you trusted. Oh, the Source said that's 5 mics. It must be incredible, right? So for us as writers, you know, we knew, and that was part of the editing process, right? Like you kind of, the editors were very rigorous, right? Like, okay, no, sending it back to you, like, what's wrong with the album? I'm like, I love it. It's great. Here's my review. No. Your article isn't critical enough because it was a critical analysis. And I had come out of Muse where we were trying to sell the records. So I was used to writing positive reviews.
Right.
You know, I wouldn't say something negative about it
because
if I'm trying to
nobody's
sell it.
going if nobody's going to pull up and go in Sam Goody and read something bad about a Mobb Deep album and then go buy it.
I had to learn how to write critically at the Source, right? And that's, you know, that could be problematic for writers, especially writers like me, who I'm going to the club on Wednesday.
Right, they're going to see me. They're going to see me.
So they might be like, wait, that's that little girl that wrote that review about me? Oh, I'm saying something to her.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's like, yo, you know what I mean? So let me tell you how embedded that magazine was in my life, right? I DJ now, right? In the pandemic, we were all forced to DJ online and, you know, we bedroom DJs. And I used to take Source magazine covers, screenshots of Source magazine covers. And when I was playing boom bap hip hop or 90s hip hop, if I wanted you to know that this is going to be a hip hop set today, I'm playing 2 hours classic hip hop. It's going to be some Tribe, some Wu, some Nas, some Biggie. It would be, I had a slideshow of Source magazine covers just behind me while I was DJing. And the nostalgia that it would give people.
Yeah.
Like, yo, I ain't seen that cover in forever. Oh, shit, that was the cover after Biggie passed with the Now What, with the Gold. Like, yo, that's crazy. Have you ever had to deal with an artist? Have you personally ever had to deal with an artist taking a review personal? And you don't have to say who, but I'm just saying.
All
the time?
When I got to be the editor-in-chief, it was a conversation that I found myself having. And I think as the editor-in-chief, I was more equipped to handle those conversations, right? Because I knew this is a review, this is a committee, this is a 5-mic committee. You know,
it ain't just one
people
person.
have voted. Right. So we took that seriously. So as the editor-in-chief, I was prepared to have those conversations. When I was writing as a freelance writer, if my name was attached to a negative review, I was, you know, artists didn't know. So, I mean, I wrote a review for an album that got 2.5 mics once. And although...
God damn, I don't even remember when that happened. I'm trying to remember, okay.
2.5 mics was translated back then, I think, as average. Right? Average. Not whack. It's average. But it became a point at the Source where if you didn't get 4 mics, you was insulted. Right? And that's a lot of rappers for you, right?
I got 3.5.
Which meant dope, right?
Just saying I got 3.5, Kim.
But was it a dope?
On God. You know what I mean? I'm still, you know what I mean? I want my hat now, I'm playing.
So 3 was good. I think 3.5 was dope. I think 4 was 4.5 was superior. And 5 was
a
classic. I forgot what 4 was, right? 4 might have been great. Great, superior, classic. Like, look at all this wonderful stuff we're giving out here. Like, but on a scale of 1 to 5, artists didn't read it that way, right? So it's like 3.5. It's like, wait a minute, I made a classic. You know, I had so many people who would submit their albums and be like, this is a classic. This is a 5 mic album. So I got used to picking up the phone. Hello, I got a 5 mic album. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to hear it. And when I was just a freelancer, I wasn't even a part of those conversations with people.
But once you got editor-in-chief,
yeah,
you in every conversation. Everything that goes on every page got to go by you.
But I had more problems as a freelancer because when you look at the mic rating, written by whoever is right by the mic rating. So forget about the fact that there's an editor-in-chief, there's a music editor, there's, 4 or 5 people in the music department that are rating this out. Your name is by it. Name. So my name was by a 2.5 mic album of an artist who was very big at the time. You know?
Is that the least that anyone's ever got? Because I've never heard of nobody getting 1 mic. It's 2.5 gotta be the lowest I've ever heard in my life. That went to print.
It means average. They voted on that. People voted on that.
A 2.5 mic album went. You mean to tell me if I went and dug up my storage and looked through all my magazines, I could find an album that got a 2.5?
Yes, you can. You probably find a couple. But this particular album was on a very popular dirty label.
Oh.
So this album was at a very important time in that artist's, it was a sophomore jinx. And that I believe that's how I started the album. I talked about the sophomore jinx. Because remember what that was back then? We used to use that term all the time.
Your second album, you got to do it again.
Right, because you're coming off of like your best work, this great platinum album. Okay, I'm giving up too many details. Anyway, so at the time I was in law school and I'm coming out of a break for studying for a bar review course, right? And I had one of those big gray flip phones. And I see this phone number that is like, it's a crazy number with a bunch of zeros in it. It looked like an office number. It was like a 9004000. So for some reason, I thought it was important. So
this is way before spam and scam likely and shit.
Hello? And the artist says, is this Kim? And I said, yeah, this is Kim. And the artist had a very distinct voice, right? Now, one of the things that we used to do at The Source that a lot of people don't know is that we used to prank call each other in the office and pretend to be artists, right? Okay. So there were...
Okay.
I'm going to blow up Riggs Morales' spot because he was one.
That's the homie. That's Riggs, the homie, Riggs. Shout Riggs.
Riggs used to do some really good voices. You know what I'm saying? On the phone.
So you could think it could have been a prank. Somebody at the office fucking with me today.
I thought it was a prank because this artist has a specific voice, right? So I'm like,
DMX.
Who is this? It's
DMX?
not DMX. It's not DMX. Stop doing that.
I mean, because when I think of specific voices, I think of X.
So I'm on the phone and he's like, is this Kim? You know, and I'm like, yes, who's that? He tells me who he is. And I'm like, who is this? Stop playing with me. Stop playing with my phone. And he was like, you wrote that review about my record? Oh. And I said, yeah. Oh, you think that's funny? And I said, no, I don't think it's funny.
I think it's honest. That's how I felt.
I might have said, I have a very weird sense of humor. So I might have said, I don't think it's funny, and then laughed. I don't know. And he was like,
oh, God.
Well, would it be funny if I had some girl standing outside your building when you got home? By the way, me and this artist have since spoke. We've done articles. Great artist.
Right.
So I'm like, and I'm not even at The Source. And I'm like, what? Like, threatening me? You know what I mean? So anyway, the call went on. I hung up the phone. I went back to my class. I went home. I called the editors. I told the editors that this particular artist had called my phone and had said they were going to, do something or whatever.
Wow.
Then I went to sleep. When I woke up, my car outside was sitting on 4 flats.
Stop playing.
Slashed.
Stop playing.
I ain't run over no nail. The tires were slashed.
All 4. Mm-hmm. The day after this person called you.
And people knew where I lived. People knew where I lived because people had been to my house. Like, I had a lot of affiliations back then. So I had, a lot of friends. I lived with my girlfriend at the time. People knew Kim and Tia, they live in that building right there. So.
Wow. What kind of car was it? How did your car?
It was a Toyota Camry.
They did the Camry. They violated the Camry.
Yeah, the Camry got violated. I had to change my tires.
And it wasn't, not a coincidence. You probably think that it had something to do with that review.
It was the next day after he called me. But I can't, what am I do? I didn't do anything about it. I changed my tires. I was like, whatever.
Kept it moving.
Yeah, that's your threat?
Wow.
I'll write another review. No.
Wow.
Let me stop. No, but it's like.
So prank
you could
calls,
figure it out.
Yeah. I knew you had to be mad about
I was mad that morning. I didn't have no money back then. I had to change them tires myself.
Damn.
Yeah.
Where was the men at? Where was the men from the source at? Ain't no woman supposed to be changing her own tires.
Hey.
Fuck is wrong with y'all? I need some gentlemen in the world.
I change my tire. I do it all. I change my tires.
I'm glad that you know how to, but you shouldn't have to. Especially now,
everyone thought it was funny.
If your second album was doo-doo juice, then it just was. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have to eat that. Shit. My second album was doo-doo juice.
It was average. It was 2.5 mics. It was average.
Yeah, hey, Kim, I can, in the 90s, let me just say, in the 90s, and I knew who you were. I knew who Kim Osorio was. If I got 2.5 albums, if I got 2.5 mics, and I live in New York, I'm in Virginia, so I'm not just gonna see you at the mall or coming out of the building. I'm in Virginia at that time. But if I live in New York and you gave me 2.5 mics in the 90s,
you'd have come to see me?
I wouldn't have flattened your tires, but I might have been like, yo, Kim, like, can we talk? Can I pull you? Yo, Ma, yo, come here, let me holler at you.
Oh, I got screamed on. I've got screamed on at clubs. I had people walk up on me at a club and be like, you was wrong. You was hating when you did that. I was hating.
I just would have sent you some flowers. I'd have sent you some flowers, a nice tennis bracelet or something before my shit came out. So you'd have been like, oh, he's such a nice guy. This album is mid, but he's a nice guy. Like,
I got a couple of gifts too. That's kind of like, that sounds like payola though. I can't say that, right?
I'm just saying, I send you some flowers. Like, yo, just don't do me dirty. Like, I ain't say I got an Illmatic, but don't give me one mic.
Listen.
It's important. That was important back then.
I prefer getting stuff after the fact as like an appreciation.
Yeah, I get it. Because then you got to think about, you doing this because I know your project coming up or your artist about to come out.
Right.
You don't want me to do. I got an artistic integrity that I got to keep. You know what I'm saying? Before the source went, the other way that it went, you still had an artistic integrity to uphold. I get it.
I did. And but I look back at that stuff.
Was that the confession? Was that the hip hop confession?
Can I use that?
I mean, you can if you have, because I didn't officially ask you, but that was a good one though.
Okay, so let's go.
A good one.
All
right, let's go. You got one? You got another one? It is hip hop confessions. Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking. Oh, you know what? I got a question. I got a question I want to ask you. And this is just for the hip hop nerd in me.
Okay.
In your opinion, most iconic source cover ever. What, in your opinion, I got 2 questions. That's the first one. What, in your opinion, what was the most iconic source cover ever?
The Wu symbol.
Just the red and black one.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, I remember that. I remember that.
That one, I have a lot, right?
Okay.
These are all before me. right?
Okay.
Before I got there. They're very memorable. Visually, there were so many that I could say, oh, this is my favorite visual cover, statement. But for the timing, right? And I love the Wu symbol, and I love the now what? The Biggie.
Biggie after Biggie passed.
And the Biggie with the Twin Towers in hindsight.
Of course. In hindsight.
Because of what, it meant, what it means now.
Yes.
So those are big for me. But Wu symbol, because it's like, in dealing with the source and artists and understanding like how powerful hip hop is, right? To have a symbol on the cover, a logo.
Yeah.
And for it to mean so much, all you need was that.
I've always said that's the most recognizable hip hop logo in the history of hip hop. Period. And people argue, Skillz, Def Jam, the Needle, Bad Boy. I said, bro, that symbol
so simple.
Is so simple and it's so recognizable. And I Run DMC those Skillz. I said, but bro, I took the Run DMC logo and made it my own. Most Def made the Run DMC go. You can't make the Wu logo your own. It's them. And I've never seen somebody change it to an M for Method Man, change it to a G for Genius, like change it to a D for Deck, like that. Wu, it's the most recognizable hip hop logo in the history of hip hop. Period. It's non-debatable.
And it says something that you could have back then put a logo on a cover.
And you could make it with your hands. People can stand up and put it in like it. It's just God. It's shout to mathematics, man, for making that. You know what I mean?
It's like I like to keep things simple and clear, right?
Yes.
If you want a message, like I'm totally into words and the power of words and the power that we can get across with our story, right? So to me, it's everything. Just to have something so simple say so much.
Yes. Okay. So my next question, and it's still dealing with covers. No, it's just dealing with covers.
Okay, good. It's easy.
And I don't know if it happened during your tenure or if you might have history of when it happened. But what was the best-selling cover in the history of the Source magazine? Because I have what I think is the top-selling cover, but I don't know if it was. But I always wanted to know if it was. I think that the Rockefeller cover was the best-selling Source magazine ever. I don't know if I'm right or if I'm wrong.
You are correct.
Oh!
You win.
Oh!
Yes.
Enter applause. So that was the biggest selling.
Yep. That was it was right as I was getting the editor-in-chief job. It was like one of my crowning moments because Jay-Z hadn't been on the cover of the magazine in years because he had an issue with the Source. Right. And so it was getting that Rockefeller cover, and it was two covers. It was a split cover. Yep. Remember, you had like J Dame, and then you had Beans and Bleak on one cover.
Yep.
Right?
I got both of them.
Yep. It was a split cover.
Damn, so that was the biggest selling one. That's crazy.
Yep.
Some of the more iconic ones I remember is Dr. Dre with the gun.
With the gun.
Well,
that was
Dr.
before
Dre
my time.
It said Dr. Dre puts his head out. Ice-T with the gang members with the signs at the bottom of them. Yeah, man, there's so many. The Wu,
Redman with the tissue in his nose.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, Redman, Flav, Kid and Play. You know what I mean? Like KRS-One.
Yes.
Ice Cube with the fro and the pig. The Black Thought, Mos Def, and Pharoah Monch was a good one.
That was a very good one.
Wow.
And these are covers. It's interesting. These are all covers that came before I got there. So I got to the Source as a job. Right? I was writing for the Source before then, but it was 2000, January 2000. Right. The first thing I think I did the Wu-Tang cover when they were coming back out. So I wrote that story. Then I got the job there. And then the South was running hip hop. So a lot of my covers were Southern hip hop covers.
Outkast.
Ludacris, right?
Yeah,
So it was a lot of
Ghetto Boys. Yeah.
yeah. So we did a lot, but that Rockefeller cover was still that was the top seller. We did the Murder Inc. cover. We did Ja Rule,
Yeah, Ja was
number
on there a
of
couple
times, right? And then we did that famous Eminem cover.
Yeah, I remember that. I still had it too. Is that the one we had the black eye and the like he was fighting?
The story I wrote. Yeah,
I was in that issue.
Were you?
My name is on the cover. Like my name is like, I think it's like Gip from Goody Mob, Master Ace, Skillz. My name is on that cover.
It was like 2004, right? When we had them tapes.
Yes, yes.
The big, yeah. So that was like a big time at the Source magazine.
Did you do any interviews yourself, or was that like, were there other people that did them? Do you have any historical interviews that you did?
Oh, I did a few interviews. I loved to write. I always wanted to write. So a lot of times, not every month, but I would write, certain stories, cover stories, right? I've done a lot. I got interviewed.
You probably interviewed everybody. Probably.
I got interview tapes here.
Wait, those are the tapes?
These are
Kim,
some of the
stop
tapes.
playing with me.
Yep.
You still
These are
have
some of the
interview
tapes.
tapes?
Yep. Little C's. Hold on. Who's this say? Funk Flex. Like, I did a lot. Carl Thomas. Look at this. The Lost Boys. Remember that?
Wow.
Sporty Thieves. Look.
Yeah, la. Then you interviewed 40 C's. They only had one
Lord Tariq and Peter Guns right here.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure I got Foxy. Fox. Who else is in here?
Are there any good moments in those tapes?
Yeah, let's Q-Tip. Wu-Tang, all that.
Are there any good moments in those tapes?
There's
Any
a lot of
memorable
good
moments?
There's, I was listening to some of them a couple of years ago, and I remember the audio is not great, right? Because it's this mini cassette, and like I can really hear. And I was listening to an interview I was doing with RZA, and it's so funny too. Look, here's hip hop. I have stories. I do.
You got a hip-hop confess? Okay, we listen.
So these actually here, listen to this. And I didn't even think about this, right? These little mini cassettes that I used to tape my interviews on. The reason why I started carrying one of these
why do you have
around-
those in 2022, Kim? Oh, you got a player.
I had to let me tell you about this stupid little thing here.
Right.
As a writer back then, right? You had to record your interviews, but usually you had your interviews set up. I remember in like 96 or 97, I was working at BMG Distribution. Like I was back and forth. I had this job, right? Because I had when I was working at Muse, I had like gone back to BMG. And do you know Quanzilla?
No, the name sounds familiar though.
Quan used to work at Loud Records,
okay.
Right? So Quan was my friend. He used to work at Loud Records. I was writing for different publications. I was freelancing. I hadn't written for the Source yet. That was where I wanted to write for. I wanted to write for the Source. And Wu-Tang had just dropped their second album. Now, if you remember the hype behind their second album,
big
and
deal.
how crazy it was, billboards in Times Square,
$1 million video.
Huge.
Crazy.
Right. Millions dollar, or was that the third album? But anyway, a crazy budget, everything. And so I had a friend at Loud Records. So Quan tells me, I can get you a Wu-Tang interview, right? I was in the building. The Clan was on another floor doing press interviews, right?
Gotcha.
So here I am. And at the time, like I'm like dressed, like I got this long old frumpy looking dress, like not the Kim that I
Right.
I was working, you know what I'm saying? At the time, I was extra heavy. This was before I had lost weight. I go up and down. So I'm like looking like a rap nerd for real, right? Like all dressed up in this dress. And he's like, come on. I'm going to take you in the conference room. I'm going to get you a Wu-Tang interview, right? Because he knew that I wanted to write for The Source.
Right.
So if I land a Wu-Tang interview
I'm good.
at this time,
I'm good. I'm Gucci.
I'm straight. I can pitch this to magazines. And so here I am, Kim Osorio, but nobody knows who I am.
Right.
I come off the elevator. I meet him at the elevator. He's like, I look in the conference room, and they're all in the conference room. Ghostface is getting his shape up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they got money.
Champagne on the table, all types of pizza boxes, like exclusive custom Nikes. Like, it was just so colorful in the conference room, right? Mm-hmm. So it's intimidating for somebody like me. So I'm standing outside the conference. He's like, hold on. I'm going to get you this interview, right? So he goes in the conference room. I see him polying. Don't no one look like, I see people looking at me like, why is she standing there? No one looks like they want to come out and talk to me, but I'm just standing there. So he convinces Inspector Deck to come out, right? So now this is, at the time, they had put out their first album, but like, you know, Meth had a solo album.
Yeah, everybody popped.
You know, Ghost, right? But
Dirty.
Inspector Deck hadn't been, you know, he hadn't come out yet. So he agreed to come do the interview. So he comes out of the conference room, right? And, you know, Quan introduces him to me, like, Deck, this is Kim. She's a writer. She's going to do an interview on you. So I'm there and I'm nervous. I have no questions prepared. I'm just going to wing it, right? I'm like, I'm going to get my Wu-Tang interview, right? And I said, okay. He was like, all right, you ready to go? And I said, yeah. And he looked at me and he said, where's your tape recorder? And I ain't had no tape recorder. And I said, I don't have one. He said, so how you going to do an interview? I said, I'm going to remember and write it down. He said, no, I'm not doing no interview. And he walked away, right?
Wow.
And I was crushed like, damn, there was my opportunity. Right. That was it. After that, you wasn't getting Ghostface one coming out, Raekwon.
Yeah, nah.
Like,
she ain't even, shorty outside ain't even got ain't got no tape recorder. She ain't no interview.
So, because of that, I never went anywhere without one of these after that. Because I figured you never know who you're going to run into and how you're going to let that opportunity go.
Yeah, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
You stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And that was a learning lesson for me. Because he could have gave me a little quote, though.
He could have, but he didn't.
I wasn't cute enough back then. He could give me a little quote.
Wow, man.
Could have took that little quote and sold it. Yeah, it was a big time, but they were just about to drop that second album. Triumph was,
It's funny. It reminds me of a confession that a good friend of mine, Lonnie B, had on the podcast, where he was at the Mix Show Power Summit.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like Renee McClain and all. I forgot where they was, but been drinking all day. You know what I'm saying? Just on the boat. You know what I mean? Drinking. Just ciphering, you know what I'm saying, just rubbing it up with industry alikes. And he's a big Wu-Tang fan. And he walked into a room and he saw Jizza. Mm-hmm. So he like, yo, I'm a low-key guy. I don't say much. I don't really talk much, you know what I'm saying? But yo, I'm such a big Wu fan. Jizza right there. The room is kind of relaxed. Everybody just kind of just kicking it. I gotta go tell him how much I've rock with them. I go over there and I just say, yo, man, what's up, man? Told him his name. He's like, yo, but I've been a big fan, man, since like the cold chilling days, you know what I'm saying? Words from the Genius, you know what I'm saying? Like all of that, man. I appreciate you, man. I love the Wu, what y'all doing, man. Like, listen, you probably one of my top 3 lyricists, bro. Just spilling. Mm-hmm. He said he got through the spiel, like, yo, man, you know what I'm saying? Keep doing your thing. Looking forward to your album, man. Listen, Jizz, man, you one of the best, man. And the dude looked at him. The nigga looked at him and said, I'm Inspector Deck. And he was like, oh, shit.
See, I knew who he was. I just couldn't get my quote.
He said, I ain't never walked up to no rapper since. Like, I could be like, that is Method Man. I don't care. I can see other people going, Meth. And Meth be like, hey, I'm like, nigga, I don't trust myself enough on this liquor to say, how do I know that ain't RZA? You know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, yeah, that's cool and all, but I'm Inspector Deck. And left it where it was. Like,
I knew where that story was going.
Yeah.
Hey, my confession, shit. I got another a Wu-Tang confession. I used to, I went to that album release party.
Okay.
The Wu-Tang album release party. And if you was in the industry back then, that's where you wanted to be,
Facts.
right? I believe, and I gotta ask her, that I met Angela Yee that night. That's when I met, and you know me and Angela are good friends.
Right.
That's where we met. That night, my hair caught on fire.
What in the Michael Jackson is going? What happened?
I leaned over a candle at the Wu-Tang album release party. I leaned over a candle. I leaned back, and I looked up, and I see this girl running towards me. And I'm like, what the hell? She's just coming. Like, what's going on?
Right.
And she just started patting my head down. Like, I don't even know who this girl is. I want to tell her thank you. If she's out there, thank you for saving my life. You know what I'm saying? But my hair was on fire at the Wu-Tang party.
Wow.
And yeah.
And that
embarrassing.
And that you know, that rapper you gave 2.5 mics to, he could have made that in a punchline. Yo, shorty from the source got fire. She know what I mean.
Remember, this is way before I got to the source.
Right.
So nobody knew who I was.
Right, nobody
back then.
knew, right?
I was just the girl whose hair caught on fire that night.
Lucky nobody saw that.
That was me. I'm lucky it's
Wow.
not on camera. Imagine these days.
Facts. Yeah,
I'm
'cause
lucky it
everything is
wasn't on
yeah.
camera. Yeah, my
That's
hair
crazy.
was on fire. And then some random girl just saved my life.
Right.
It wasn't, it's not the only time my life was saved. I don't want to get emotional, but I have another story. I'm giving you too many stories.
No, come on. I got
these
time
good,
for
though?
one more. Yes, I got time for one more.
I always say
It's
I have
probably
a
the
story
most
about how-
confessions I ever had on one episode. Let's go.
Is it?
Let's go.
Oh, God.
Because I don't know when I'm going to get
Kim.
Kimmy O again. Nah, this was...
That's
this
like
was-
Kim, you talk too damn much.
I waited for this one. What's up?
So I got to tell you, okay, this is a serious story.
Okay.
This is a serious story. So,
All right.
I have this story. I call it, I haven't told it publicly, but I have told a few people about
Okay.
the day the lock saved my life.
Wow.
And so it's a very emotional story to me because I know this to be the worst day of my life.
Okay.
There was a day that I was done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally. I was broken and I was going through it. Now this goes all the way back to the year I got divorced. This is 2017.
Right.
And I really wasn't feeling it that day. And I've never felt like this before.
Mm-hmm.
And so this day taught me a lot just about suicide and depression because
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen darkness before this day.
Right.
And that day I saw darkness. So for me, it was an important. So I had to go to work. I was working on a hip hop honors show, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It was a VH1 show.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was doing the script for that show. But because of what I was going through, I was kind of like hiding in the control room. So I didn't see anybody. And my friends were talking me through that day, like, you're going to be okay. You don't need any medication. Like, you're going to be fine, right? I had really had, the night from hell. I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten. Some stuff had happened to me, some real shit. So I one of my friends said, you need to get something to eat. So the food was in the catering, right? So I'm walking on my way to get food, right? Mm-hmm. To get something. And I go in the trailer to get food and I come out. And as I'm walking out, right in my direct path is Jadakiss and Styles P. Mm-hmm. Right? And they on the little cart, when you're about to go to the stage.
Right.
And they're on the car smoking. You know what I'm saying? And I have my sunglasses on, my eyes. I don't know if they could see, like I'd been crying all day. And I walk up to the cart. They're right there. I can't walk by without speaking. So I walk up and I say, hello. And they look at me. I think they could tell something was wrong. And they say, how are you, Kim? And I'm talking to them and I'm like, I'm not. And they were the first people that I had seen in person that I had said, I'm not okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not okay. Right? Tears down my face. And they just looked at me. Jadakiss said, take some of this. He handed me his blunt. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't smoked weed. I don't know how long it's been since I had smoked weed But at that point, I didn't know what else to do. It's like, just Jadakiss said, you got to take some weed. Just take some weed.
Hit the blunt with Kiss.
Take the weed.
Right.
Take the weed. So I took the weed And I inhaled it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like magical weed. It was like
Kiss knew. Kiss knew.
it was magical weed.
Yo.
And I
Shout
looked at
Kiss,
Styles.
man. Listen,
And
they
he
not
said-
know they don't have no garbage with
Hold
them.
on. He looked at me, he said, hit it again. Right?
Right.
So I took it again. And at this time, right, I said I was going through a bad divorce and other things were happening.
Mm-hmm.
It was around the time where he had just lost
his manager.
Jay Icepick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Styles had just lost someone very close to him as well,
him
right?
and his family.
Right. And I'm sitting there broken over a damn dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I take this weed and I look at them. And Styles says, you can't enjoy the sun unless the rain comes out. Right?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And Jadakiss said, this going to take the edge off. Before he gave me the blunt, this going to take the edge off. And it did.
And Styles said, hit it again. Take two.
And then they drove off in their little cart. And I felt better.
Wow. Just
That's
in
the
that
story.
moment. That's so
But you know
dope,
what?
man.
It's a lesson. You know why? You never know what someone is going through in their life, right? And the things that you say to them in their moments of darkness can change their perspective. When I went back to the control room, I had to get on PL. I was so fucking high. I was so paranoid that somebody was going to know I was high. You know how you smoke, you get high, you're like, oh, somebody knows I'm high. And that they were going to find out that she is on the PL. Hi.
Liddy. Like, Liddy.
That it took my mind off everything I was going through. So
That's
by the time the
crazy,
show was over, I was like, bitch, you okay.
Right. You
I
gonna be
know you
all
ain't
right.
mad. I know you ain't mad about a divorce.
Right.
I know you ain't upset about cheating. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That moment changed my perspective because I realized people that go through things. You know what I'm saying? And hey, a little weed don't hurt.
Hey man, listen. And kissing them knew. They knew what they had was gonna get you right. Take this.
He said, hit it again.
Listen. The best advice in the world, man. That's so dope, man. Well, I'm glad you're in a better place.
Oh, I'm
You
in a
know
much
what I'm
better
saying?
place now. I don't like to tell that story because it's like I was in a dark place.
Yeah, it's super personal.
It's not as fun.
Right, but it's real.
Yeah,
It's real. It don't. This this platform don't always have to be funny and
Yeah.
haha. Like, nah, that's a real
But
moment.
next time y'all going through something, y'all get some weed from the locks.
Yeah. Well, listen, I thank you for pulling up, man. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know you're a
Thank
busy
you for
woman.
having me.
I've
Thank
been wanting
you.
to get you on for a while. I gotta call one of my good friends and probably dangle it in his face that I got you on the podcast. He gonna be in his feelings, like,
Who?
you know what I mean? Yeah, because we used to talk about you a lot, me and him.
About me?
Yeah.
You gotta tell me
homeboy.
offline.
No, I'll tell you right now, my home, because he gonna listen to this podcast anyway. But my homeboy DJ Iron.
Iron
Yeah.
is one of the. There's
Yeah.
5 people who know my musical skill.
And that's one of them is Iron, I know. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Iron knows about a job I never speak about publicly because remember when I told you I was interning?
Right.
I was that's how I met Iron. I was an intern for this raggedy little bullshit ass record label that that they were horrible. They never paid me. But Iron was someone who would actually listen to the records that I sent him.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
Good friend of the podcast. So I'm gonna tell him.
He's gonna be
tell him I
happy.
had
Good.
you on. Yeah. Nah, that's gonna be dope, man. So
Good.
listen, let people know where they can get you at. What's your social handles? You know what I'm saying? Before we get out of here, let them know what it is.
I'm at Kim Osorio 1 on everything. Instagram, Twitter. That's just
Kim Osorio.
with all O's. Kim Osorio. I know that like people still spell it wrong after all this
Not
time.
Sicario. Osorio.
Kim Osorio 1.
Got it. Well, thank you. Listen, I appreciate you pulling up.
Thank
you so much. This is one of the. This was fun. This was a good vibe. I thank you for coming on. I can't wait to have you back. Yes.
All right.
You already know what it is, man. This is your boy Skillz signing off for Hip Hop Confessions, because everybody got one.
Here's a little story that must be told.
And it goes a little something like this.